Hello. Welcome back to Flextalk. I am frankly impressed at how well the last episode did. I thought that one would be like a flop one-off video, but no, now it is second best video on the channel. So, thank you so much for watching it and getting the ball rolling for me. Um Today's episode, I wanted to cover Minecraft because lo and behold, I'm in the 2-week Minecraft phase, and I have been started on my endless hatred for the enchanting system. Oh boy, this one's gonna be a doozy. Um, well, to get right into it, I think the enchanting system is frankly archaic. It has not undergone a significant change in how it works since it released in 1.0. You could argue it changed a bit when the anvil came in, but like honestly, I don't remember when the anvil came, but like that has to be like pre like 1.5 or something. Like the anvil is just as old. So it's not, it doesn't make too much of a difference. So I think I want to kind of run down the list of things that I hate about the enchanting system and maybe how to fix them in a more subtle way, I guess, because a lot of people they try to throw very heavy-handed overhauls, and I don't think that would work too well. So, thing number one I want to talk about that I don't think a lot of people think about that makes the enchanting system miserable is the XP system. Because if you think about it, what is the part of getting enchants that everybody is like universally dislikes? It's grinding for levels. Because getting XP is so god forbiddenly slow. It's crazy. I don't know how Mojang has never like revamped the XP system because I know it's old. But it's like, dude, it is so slow and just it very expressly benefits the combat focused player, but barely so because killing a single mob, it'll get you something. It'll give you a couple XP orbs. But if you're just like killing a couple mobs and then sleeping, like you get almost no XP. So you could maybe get to about level 20 by accident. I find that on like a good run of like staying alive, you can get to level 20 very easily and like stay there. But holy crap, getting from level 20 to 30 is so much worse because, of course, XP has an exponential cost curve. So getting from like level 1 to 2, you can do by accident, basically. But getting from level 29 to level 30 is so annoying. It sucks. And I think in part that's one thing that could maybe be changed. Changing the level system to be a flat linear curve. Because I see no reason for it to need to be exponential. Because if the XP system was like a permanent system where like even after you died, you kept your levels. Okay, exponential curve, that makes sense. You want to spend your levels to keep them low. The problem is, you lose all your levels when you die, so unless you're in hardcore, you're incentivized to just play like a coward, like hunker up, never take any risk to die. And you know what counts as risk to dying? Going out and exploring, trying out like stuff like the trial chambers, going on a run to the deep dark, staying up any time past like when the mobs start coming out at night. Like it literally incentivizes just sitting there and like building all day. And like don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that, but when you're just trying to play Minecraft like and you want to engage with those things, it gets annoying. So as I said, I think the best choice to make would be to just stop it from being an exponential curve and make it a linear curve. Or at the very least, making it so that it starts getting really slow past level 30. Because then it's a nice incentive structure. You know, you get to level 30 and it's like, well, you know, you don't want to be hoarding your levels, so let's spend our levels doing some enchanting. And I think that already makes the problem of enchanting like 9 times better, because that's the part that nobody likes. You know, the gamble at the enchantment table or the shenanigans with the anvil, you know, they're mildly annoying, but like they're quick. The XP grind is necessary to do any of that, and so curbing the XP grind makes enchanting as a whole just so much better in every way. And if you still want to maintain the challenge and have, you know, things still be difficult, you could just make it to where you up the amount of XP necessary to get enchantments. Like, for example, if, you know, the exponential curve getting removed makes it so it's a little too fast, maybe just add another 5 levels to start enchanting at max level. Something like that. Something as simple to just add some buffer if you don't think keeping it at level 30 with reduced grind time is enough. Next thing that I think needs to be tackled is the enchantment table and how you actually get enchants. When the enchantment table is a cool idea, and I think I kind of like the idea that the enchantment table is a gamble, that you don't necessarily always get the exact thing you want. But I think the issue is that you have to spend ages doing it. If you could just waltz on up to the enchantment table and then just get a level 1 enchantment and then boom, you have a perfectly tolerable pickaxe, that'd be great. But the problem is, it takes forever to get like a good roll on the enchant table, because why? Okay, here's one simple thing that could be done. Make it so that there's always like the title enchantment, but then you get more enchantments as you pick higher levels. For example, if you have a max level enchanting table, like, you know, you got the whole bookshelf set up and you want to enchant something, the level 1 enchant should not give you a low-level enchantment. It should give you a single high-level enchantment. So instead of getting, for example, maybe like efficiency 1 and unbreaking 2 on a pickaxe at level 1, you should just get efficiency 5 done. How is that fair? Well, already the enchantment table scales with bookshelves around it, so that problem's already fixed. But if you really don't want to tinker with it, you can just add like a separate tab where, for example, you can enchant super cheap with no lapis, and that gives you like your level 1 enchantments, you know, your cheap, quick, and dirty enchants. But then you put lapis in, and that gets you your expensive high-level enchantments. So already, if you just make it to where level 1 gives 1 high-level enchantment, level 2 gives 2, and level 3 gives 3, it means that you get kind of what you want. And now, for some tools, this would be very meddling. Like, for example, on axes, I think you basically just get the same things every single time. Because I think, you'd get maybe, like, sharpness, unbreaking, and efficiency on, like, every axe. Which, like, you know, okay, that's a little boring. Add some axe enchantments. Like, there's stuff you could come up with. Like, for example, maybe stripping logs does something. Same thing with the shovel. Digging paths does something special. Just do that for the tools that don't have unique enchantments. Add some really basic ones. And all of a sudden, now there's a nice little kind of gamble, where you're not gambling on your payout, you're gambling on what the payout is. Instead of trying to gamble like, oh, level 30 enchantment, I got like efficiency 5 and that was it, so this pickaxe is as good as dead, time to disenchant and go grind another 3 levels. You might get maybe efficiency 4, unbreaking 2, and like, I don't know, like fortune 2. And it's like, sure, that pickaxe isn't perfect, but it's pretty good, and you did it on your first attempt. So it's like, okay, you know what? We'll put up with it. We can get a perfect pickaxe later. And I think doing just the 2 simple changes of XP system being a little faster and making the enchant table just always give a minimum amount of enchantments per tier would, I'm almost certain, fix 99% of people's gripes with the enchant system. Heck, I would probably stop complaining. Like, there's still some other things that would annoy me, but I think it would still be fine. It would be tolerable. And people would just move on. But as you can see, the video runtime's got a lot to go. So, what else do I got? Well, I think the next thing to cover would be the anvil. The anvil has effectively just become the just maximize enchants tool. Maximum efficiency, do it once, all done thing. And that's kind of not what I think it's entirely meant to do. I feel like the idea of repairing tools with the anvil should be better. So, I think the single thing you could do with the anvil that's simple, easy, and effective is just remove the too expensive thing. That's annoying, it's dumb, just completely remove it. And now, sure, it'll cost you, like, probably 30 levels to repair your, like, diamond pickaxe once with diamonds, but it's done. It's like, completely, like, set in stone. And then, voila, there we are. The anvil is mostly fixed, in my opinion, because we can argue about, like, oh, putting books together and mixing and matching to make the perfect pickaxe, blah, 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 blah. I don't think it matters that much. That's like your fancy tech. That's how you get like your perfect pickaxe. You know, if the enchantment table is supposed to give you like your quick and dirty pickaxe, easy but not perfect, the anvil is meant to be the one where you got to think about how you're going to get the books, how to put the books together, and then make your perfect pickaxe out of it. I think that's fine. Just removing the too expensive thing means it's little easier for people to just do because they just put the books together. So the hard part is more getting the levels and finding the books rather than how the heck do I put the books together. And then it also means you now have a nice choice to make where if you don't put mending on your tools, for example, you can go to the anvil and say, well, I could either repair it and keep going on and on and on and on, where at some point the pickaxe will break, and I have to get a new one, or I can keep repairing it, but the levels get more expensive. So then what do I prefer? Do I prefer running this perfect pickaxe forever, but having an exponential cost, or do I prefer just getting a new pickaxe and refreshing the repair cost? Something like that. So I think then the anvil already is much more interesting. Next thing to cover, the mentioned mending, along with how most enchantments work at all. This is where the video goes off the deep end. So if you've been agreeing with my takes and being like, yeah, okay, these are some nice takes, I would completely axe your expectations, because I think this is where we get into what is he talking about territory. So I think that levels for enchantments, like efficiency 1, efficiency 2, efficiency 3, blah, 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 those should be removed. Maybe I'm crazy, but here's my thought process. The enchant system, it shouldn't have levels to it, because the shtick should be the enchantment itself. Because, like, let's look at something like the mace. Because the mace, I think, is a good example of interesting enchantments. You've got breach, which makes you have better, damage output. You have the wind burst, one, which gives you a fun new way to, like, combo the mace. And then I think, forgive me, I've already forgotten the other mace enchants, but I know there's one that gives you, like, armor breaching rather than just raw damage. And I think there's another one that I've just completely forgotten. But you see how they all do, like, unique things? And then they all have a level to them. Did we need a level for that? Like, for example, what if you just compressed all 3 wind bursts into, like, wind burst 3? So, for example, you get one wind burst book, and it's just, that's it. It's wind burst. You know, it's like mending or something, where it's just, that's it. Same thing with the other enchants for it. Why have, like, breach 1, breach 2, breach 3, when you can just close it off at breach period, and then it just has a set amount. Let's apply this to a tool everybody knows, the pickaxe. I will forever complain about pickaxe, like, efficiency and whatnot, because this episode was originally going to be meant to be, like, talking about pickaxes and tool tiers, but I realized the issue of that is almost entirely in efficiency and the enchant system, because tell me, why does the enchants cover 99% of pickaxe, like, speed? Like, a diamond pickaxe and a netherite pickaxe are basically identical, but then a wood pickaxe with efficiency 5 is, like, faster than a diamond pick base. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Efficiency should give just, like, a flat rate. Like, it should be able, don't get me wrong, I don't want to remove, like, the max mining speed. Like, a diamond pick with efficiency should still be a diamond pick with efficiency 5, quote unquote. The problem is, like, there's too much weight put on the efficiency part of that. A base diamond pickaxe should be faster and efficiency should be slower, but the two combined should still be the same speed. Shift the values a bit. And I think part of that annoyingness is the levels. Because again, what was something that I was complaining about, well, not complaining about, but talking about in the enchant table section? The levels of the enchants. They're, you know, you can get low level enchants at times, and that makes it quote unquote not perfect. I think with the system that I propose, that kind of makes sense, but I feel like in an ideal world, you just want the enchants to be like little boons, little things, you know, like they should all act like the single level enchants. Fortune shouldn't have levels of fortune, it should just be fortune. Same with efficiency. It should be like enchants like Silk Touch, where it's like, it's just a set, like, boost. Because then when you do that, you can start working with more interesting things, and also, it removes clutter. Because have you looked at the enchanted books menu in creative? Like, that thing's a mess. Like, removing the levels on it would just make it so much easier. And now granted, I think on Java, I play Java nowadays, but I played Bedrock for most of my life. So maybe on Java, I'm pretty sure there aren't the levels, but on Bedrock, they have every single level of every single enchantment. The menu's massive. It's annoying. Compacting all of that into single level enchantments would A, reduce clutter, but also just make enchants feel more impactful. Getting a cheap single enchantment would feel just as cool now as getting just an efficiency 5 pickaxe. Like, instead of getting like an efficiency 1 pickaxe and like it barely makes a difference at all, you get efficiency and now all of a sudden you are an absolute speedster. The cost is that you don't have more interesting enchantments. Like, for example, you know, just efficiency on a pickaxe in this system would be fine, but you'd still want to get, like, the single-leveled fortune and whatnot. Maybe I'm just, like, talking in circles at this point, but I think single-level enchantments would just make everything smoother. It means... Because also, let's cover the sword enchantments and the absolute stupidity of Bane of Arthropods. Everybody knows it. Bane of Arthropods is stupid. Why is it stupid? Because A, it doesn't affect that many people, but it's just not that good compared to Sharpness. Sharpness just outdoes all the others except like Smite. So what could you do? Sharpness, it at like level 1 scaled compared to the others, it's a bit weaker. It shouldn't give as much of a boost. Like it shouldn't change much, but it's a universal damage boost. But then you switch over to Smite, and it has way more damage. Like, let's say the equivalent is roughly Sharpness, like, no levels, would maybe be equivalent to Sharpness 3. But then Smite and Bane of Arthropods, they would be equivalent to their level 5s. So then, Sharpness is now, it's like the universal, here's a bit of extra damage, whereas the others are these specialized, we're gonna, like, nuke the mobs kind of thing. I think that would make the sword enchantments a little more interesting. And then you could kind of apply similar logic to other weapons like that, where one enchant based on damage is just better than the others. Just apply it to where it scales worse. We should also cover one of my personal gripes, which is with the crossbow. I think the crossbow's cool, but it's completely outdone because the bow has power 5, the crossbow doesn't. So the crossbow's as good as useless, the bow can just one-tap people, and it shoots faster. So power should be either A, given to the crossbow, which, like, come on now, put it on the crossbow, or 2, power gets scaled down so that the crossbow still hits hard, but its main value is in the fact that it has, more like interesting enchantments outside of that. Okay, I think we're nearing the end of my list of arguments. I think the last thing I want to cover is everybody's favorite, mending. Mending is controversial because I think the idea of mending is flawed, but it is damn near necessary to exist. Because with all the gripes of the repair system and the enchant system, mending has become the bandage fix that no one wants touched because everything else sucks. So when I say mending should be changed, remember, I'm kind of working off the idea that XP's better, the enchantment table's a bit better, repairing tools is better with the anvil. So mending now is kind of screwing the anvil in its purpose. So what do I propose? All I think that needs to be done is mending should have more, like, non-compatible enchantments. Mending should be one of those choices that you ponder. This might be crazy. Make it to where mending and unbreaking are exclusive. So if you want unbreaking on your tools, okay, they last really long, but you gotta go manually repair them at the anvil. You want mending on your tools? Okay, but that means you're gonna have to keep tipped off all the time because you don't have much leeway. It's still a base, no unbreaking tool. And I think that would make the choice between mending and unbreaking so much more interesting. And if you combine that with unbreaking having no levels, and just unbreaking is now base level 3 unbreaking, or maybe level 2, because, like, level 3 unbreaking, like, compared to mending is actually a pretty interesting choice. So, I don't know, you make unbreaking a single leveled enchantment, and now you really ponder, do you want the endless repairability, but then you gotta go repair it all the damn time? Or do you want low bouts of repairability, but you get exponentially more expensive the longer you use it? Because some people, I bet, would prefer to just have unbreaking and call it a day. Because, don't forget, mending's a pain in the ass to get. You gotta get villagers. And, like, I'm not even gonna touch villagers because they are the bandage to the bandage. where you just need them to do anything. But let's just say you gotta get them to get mending. Unbreaking can be the easier but less overall fixing issue. You can get unbreaking a lot easier, and it solves your issue for the most part, but it's not perfect. Mending is the quote-unquote perfect, but it still has a drawback. And I think that kind of logic can be applied to a lot of enchants. I feel like a philosophy like Silk Touch should be applied to more enchants, where there's kind of a trade-off. It doesn't seem like an obvious trade-off, but it is a trade-off. You know, with Silk Touch, you can't get Fortune, and that means, you know, you gotta have two different kinds of pickaxe. You gotta have your Silk Touch pick, and you gotta have your Fortune pick. The same thing should be applied to other tools more often. You know, you have your super fast pickaxe. You have your, like, getting specific stuff pickaxe. You have maybe for axes, you have your combat axe, and then you have your tool axe. Same thing with, like, your sword. You have, like, your crowd control sweeping edge sword. And then you have your single target high damage sword. So on and so forth. Giving that, like, dynamic of this or that just makes enchanting more interesting. Now, I think with that, we've reached the end of my ramble. And I think at this point, the comments are here to absolutely kill me. Because the enchanting system is now deeply ingrained into people, and changing it, I think, is not most people's favorites. But I hope that before you leave your angry comment, you remember the start of the video where we covered XP not being exponential and the enchant table being a little less just random BS. I hope you remember that and realize, well, you might not agree with my idea that, like, enchants should have removed levels and they should compete more with each other. I hope you can at least remember maybe lowering the amount of difficulty in grinding for XP and making the enchant table a little less random, and maybe chucking on the anvil being less useless. I hope that will make you realize those simple changes could make a hell of a difference in the misery of enchanting. Because remember, you might put up with enchanting, that doesn't mean that you enjoy it. Like, I bet there's a ton of people out there who, like, fanboy defend the enchant system, but they hate enchanting. It's just they don't like the idea of changing it because, well, what happens? It gets more complicated, more confusing. Just changing something doesn't mean it has to get worse or different. We can just make it easier, more quality of life. And I think that kind of refinement logic would help a ton of features in Minecraft that feel a bit underbaked at times. Because there's a ton of features from the older days. Like, for example, the food bar could use maybe a bit of extra love. Enchants need a lot of extra love. But I bet there's other systems that you could come up with. Maybe animal breeding's a little boring for your taste. Maybe combat could use another refresh. So on and so forth. So just remember, when you're thinking about Minecraft, you gotta think about the little changes. You can propose your big sweeping changes. Mojang's never gonna do those. Having your little things that you fight for, XP being a little easier to get, Mojang can do that without much controversy. Because that's rule number one at Mojang. They don't want controversial big changes. They want little tiny things that no one would complain about. And something like that, I think, would just, it would make the game so much better. So with that, to cut myself off from rambling, thank you so much for getting to the end of the video. Damn, bro, 30 minutes of me ranting at the enchant system is, that's a choice. You're definitely invested in the issue as much as I am. If you're here, you probably partly agree with me, and all the critics have already, written their comment and left. So, thank you for getting here and supporting me, because it does mean a lot to get a lot of views on videos and whatnot. So, thank you so much for putting up with me. And I hope to see you on the next video that I upload, whatever it is. So, see you later, folks.